This is the Amp Hour Podcast, released August 9th, 2020. Episode 504. This is just a tribute.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of the Contextual Electronics Podcast.
And if you can hear a hint of laughter in our voices, because we just recorded 4 minutes without pressing record.
That's right. I was so excited to talk about the new podcast that I forgot to hit record.
And all our best stuff was in there. That's the best stuff we've ever done, you know.
Yeah. This is just a tribute, so. Yeah.
It's the greatest. This is the greatest podcast. This is not the greatest podcast in the world. It's just a tribute.
This is just a tribute. That's
tribute,
right.
Yeah. Maybe that could be the title of this episode.
Yeah. Oh boy.
The greatest podcast in the world. Yes. Oh well. Yeah. When you get bored, you create another podcast.
That's right. Yeah. So, all this free time, working extra hours on consulting stuff. And I'm like, I should just do another podcast too. And let's make it a little harder on myself too. And we'll make it video. And yeah. So, it's cool. We got 3 episodes out already. I wanted to do 3 up front, mostly because other podcasts do that. And I'm like, I guess that's the thing. But yeah, I thought people here might be interested too. It's, it's electronics. It's, and it's, literally, it feels like Groundhog Day right now because I've already explained this once, but so we had Mohammed on last week, who's a 25 year veteran and who does really deep technical chip design stuff, right? Open source chip design. But then there's people that are doing mechanical stuff and software stuff and people kind of outside the industry who have technical expertise in their own areas who might be using electronics, but actually to add some color to the why you'd want to use electronics, give it context as it were. So yeah,
staying on brand.
That's right.
Gotta stay on brand.
Got to stay on brand. And so talking to some new people and trying to get some new stories. And so the first episode was with Sophie Wong, who's a designer and mechanical, electrical kind of stuff and fashion. Second one is Stephen Hawes, who's doing a mechanical project, which is a DIY pick and place. And then the third one is a former coworker of mine. We actually, because it's visual, we did a design review of the board that I'm building right now. And he's a firmware engineer. And so he's fixed a lot of my schematics over the years. And yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting of just going through all the stuff that
How does a firmware engineer fix your schematics?
Have you ever assigned a pin that shouldn't have been assigned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that a lot. And Eric is usually the one that helps fix it. And really, actually, he usually is points it out and then I go and bodge it. And then he's like, yeah, this works now. And then the next rev, we fix it together.
Yep.
So yeah, always, work with your firmware engineer, folks. I've learned that one the hard way over many, many years. So and Eric's been great for that kind of stuff. So we kind of just did that live and went over the ABC board that I've been building. And yeah, it was kind of cool, to have. We never really have visual. You and I don't really have visual, but might try it at some point. We were just trying it out just here now, and this the site that I used for recording and
the streaming technology is getting incredible. I couldn't believe we were actually running the video and the audio as separate, using separate programs and listening, and the lag between them is, it's there. You can hear it, but it's almost nothing. It's just incredible. So it's so different because we have toyed with video over the years with the Amp Hour, and it just always sucked.
Whenever we tried it, it was always we would record kind of like a Skype window or a Google Hangouts window, and then we'd sync it up. But it's then it's doubling up. But this is all kind of server side, so it's a little bit better. And like you said, the browser based stuff is just amazing. That's how we do the recording now. So
yes, we switched away from Mumble
to start a podcast. So
there's so many startups now that are getting all these. There's so many options. I asked on Twitter a month ago or something, a couple of months back, what do people recommend for this? And everyone's throwing me, all these different. So I'm checking out all these different platforms, and there was just so many of them available for doing, streaming meetings and things like that. But only some of them are optimized for podcasts. If you don't know, we use Zencaster for
That's right.
recording the amp hour, and it's audio only, but it has all the features. Like if we've been doing this podcast for 10 years, and if we were to do like develop a web-based recording system, it'd work exactly like this.
Yeah.
It's exactly
great,
like the way it does.
There's some weirdness sometimes, but like, yeah, it makes it way easier to do what we do, and really for the guests. And that's really the whole reason we started doing it. So
the whole thing about getting a quality podcast is doing local audio recording. Rather than recording, and same with video, not recording the stream version, but recording it locally. And then you've got the highest quality audio and video content. And then
and then it comes down to how good your camera is, how good your lighting is, everything. Yeah. I have a bit of a camera gear addiction, like on YouTube now. I like watch every video review of like camera.
Sucked into those.
Like gear heads. Right. It's really
I've given. I used to do that. No, I've given up. I don't follow what the latest camcorder or SLR is or whatever.
Yeah, no, I do. It's very distracting. It's
a sickness.
It's expensive. Yeah.
No, it's like I've gotten to a point. It's almost like PCs now, right? Mm-hmm. PCs are like I can't picture myself upgrading my PC. It's like I know people who still run 10-year-old PCs because it still does like back in the old days there used to be you'd update every year or 18 months, 2 years or whatever. But now it's like, well, there's no point. They're not really getting any inherently faster that makes it useful for daily purposes. They're already more than fast enough. So the same thing with my camera. Like it's already good enough.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I wonder if it's tied back to the idea that we're doing all this stuff on web technology, like even this recording and stuff like that. It's not like and so much stuff is moving over to the web that it's like a lot of that processing power needs is and everything's kind of made into like an app and kind of like a containerized type thing anyway. So maybe because of that, the processing needs for a computer are low unless you're doing something like really, really heavy video editing or something like that.
Yeah, but even then, video editing is still like, I could upgrade my machine and my rendering might be, 30% faster or something. But
right.
Like, it's already
like
good enough.
It's not leaps and bounds. It's not.
It's not leaps and bounds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know when I last updated my PC, but I did that because purely for video editing. Didn't do it for any other reasons. I'm not some hardcore gamer or anything, and it's just it's good enough. So it just keeps on working and it's fine.
Well, this is bound to happen.
Let us know in the comments. How old is your PC that you're currently using, or your camera that you're currently using? So I just gave up, looking for updates. It's just, No, like every couple of years I might, what are the new camcorders doing? I might have a quick squiz, but no, doesn't matter. It's like, what am I going to do? Go to 8K? It's like, it's just ridiculous. So many YouTubers are going to 8K now. It's like, why?
Yeah.
It's just insane. When half your audience are watching on phones. Like,
right.
Right.
Or like in a little embedded window or something like that.
Something like that. It's just, it's silly. So I don't get it. I do my teardowns in 4K though. I am kind of, kind of with it, down and happening with the latest tech. I do 4K.
Yeah, I think for things that need like high,
exactly that warrant it. Yeah.
Yeah, like when someone wants to like zoom in themselves, that kind of helps.
Yes. But no, if you're just doing a talking head podcast, like you don't even need full HD. It's like 480p is fine, or 720 at most, Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, if you're thinking you want to like get better video, like look at your lighting first. Like watch a bunch of videos about lighting.
Oh,
that's what matters.
Lighting's
more
everything.
Than anything.
Yeah. I get emails constantly. Just the other day, another video. Another email. What camera do I use? And it's like, because your videos look so good, dude. You could make the same quality with your phone.
With your iPhone,
you just need a crap ton of light. It's
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah. So, so I have a new podcast and, it's video. So we'll see. I got some more people coming up. I got about 6 total in the can and, we'll be releasing them over time. I've got another, design review coming up in episode 6, where I actually have a interview with a FAE who did a review of the design. I don't know if that's going to be interesting either, but it's kind of like stuff I've just never seen before. So hopefully people like that.
Cool.
Like like film myself going out to lunch with an FAE, you know?
Right. Oh no, that was that was always, oh my God. I can remember, yeah, being called up by the FAIs. Oh, can we do lunch?
Yeah,
It's like, no. It's
right. And
like,
then they're trying
no,
to relate
no.
to you and like,
Yeah, they're
oh,
trying to be,
oh,
yeah,
Chris, you like
yeah.
jazz? Tell me about that. Okay.
These were the days before the internet, and you could
Yeah.
buy parts online, so you had to,
Yeah.
build a relationship with
Hmm.
your, in quote marks, with your, applications engineer or your, sales
Well, so here's
engineer
the
or whatever.
thing. I will say I love the applications engineers. If I could talk to anyone out of the crowd that comes, it's applications engineers.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's the sales engineer. Like,
It's the
and don't get me
sales
wrong. I come from
engineers.
a
Yep.
family of sales engineers. I love, my dad and my grandpa are both salespeople. Like, I get it. Like, but yeah, a little harder to relate when it's like, tell me about jazz. Okay, maybe we stick to electronics.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking to someone about that the other day too, and we were talking about like, what was it? Oh, you know what it was? It was actually something I meant to bring up on the show. It was one of my friends. He was telling me about. So I talked to you about my PCB Gerber woes, and we could talk about that
Yes.
in a little bit. But he had referred me to Eurocircuits, and Eurocircuits. Oh my God, have you ever used their tool before? Like just their upload tool?
No, I haven't.
They have a fantastic DFM tool. So you go upload your Gerbers on there, and basically all the stuff that like a board house does, they basically digitize the output from that. And like, so like 4PCB has done this, Advanced Circuits has done this for a long time too. They have like a online DFM type of thing, and
Mm.
and that's great. But like Eurocircuits is like something different. I don't know.
Right.
I had not seen anything like this, and it has like a DFM thing. It's got a visualizer. It's if you upload your BOM, all this stuff, and it's like really advanced stuff. And my friend who told me about it, he's like, they get my business just because I don't have to talk to a sales engineer.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, like I totally know that feeling. And like, and that is the modern thing. I think a lot of electronics businesses are coming around to that just because of cost cutting and efficiencies and obviously remote stuff with COVID. But like,
Mhm.
I personally, if I can get around talking to a human, I will go towards that every single time, because like sometimes they're valuable, sometimes they'll have some insight, but most of the time it's just a gatekeeping, not in gatekeeping. It's a slowing down in order to serve the sales team more than anything else, because they want to get
Yes.
credit for the sale, and
Yep,
that's what
exactly.
bugs me.
Yep.
So
I agree.
So yeah, I don't know, like, and I think there's other tools that are doing this kind of, obviously, like the online distributors are getting good at this stuff too. You don't have to talk to salespeople. I think that drives a lot of new business, but
And it's just time wasting too. Like you just want, like you're in the middle of your engineering and you just want to know, right, how much does this board cost? And you want the answer in a minute. You don't
Right.
want to have to, talk
exactly.
to a person, which will take 10 minutes. By the
I could send it off for a quote. Of
Yeah.
course I could, right? I could send you a
Yeah.
BOM. Like I could wait a day,
Right.
but I don't need that kind of precision that they're thinking about. They're like, oh, well, you want to get the best price. No, I want to know if it's $1,000 or $500 or $100. Like it's like
Exactly. Yeah. You just want to
it's just
ballpark.
scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when I know when I need to get within 5-10% of pricing, then yeah, of course, take a day, like give me all the best pricing, give me all the lead times, whatever. Like, but otherwise, just give me a damn price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would recommend Eurocircuits too. It's an interesting looking tool, and it definitely validated what I was going through. Oh boy.
Right. Well, can we talk about that?
Sure. So I was using JLC for the ABC board, like the board that I've been designing for Contextual Electronics, and I was asking you about it a little bit as well.
Because you Kamagutsa, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I made a boo boo.
Yep. Which is a classic one. For, like it's everyone does this. Yeah, sooner or later, when your designs get like small enough,
to the
i.e.,
edge.
you're
to
the edge of the process limits, you're going to encounter this problem.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
And so
go.
what happened is I had this board. I took it all the way down to like I was really squeezing stuff in, right? So I'm out of space on this board.
Yep.
It's got, Bluetooth chips on it. It's got an nRF52. It's got the BG95, which is a cell modem. It's got this, mezzanine connector, which is like high density. So just getting everything up to there. It's only a 4-layer, right? So I chose only 4-layer, trying to keep costs down and things like that. And I ran out of room, top sides north-south traces, bottom sides east-west traces, just trying to make things a little simpler like that as much as I could. And I ran out of room. And basically what happened was when I generated Gerbers, I sent it off and they said, I set everything at 3.5 mil or thou, which is 0.0889 millimeters.
Which was supposed to be their limit, right?
That's right.
You actually checked, so you did the right thing.
Yeah. It wasn't just like open loop, like whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
And then basically they came back to me and they said, we found a bunch of traces that are 0.07 millimeters. So I'll say everything in millimeters because that's how we were corresponding. So first off, they said 0.09 millimeters is our limit, which is 3.54 mils or thou.
And you did 3.5.
I did 3.5 because that's what the site says. But then they say 0.09 millimeters, right? I'm sorry, the numbers here, but it's just like it's a rounding error, right? And
Exactly.
so right there, we're out of the gate. We're like, okay, so it's just a communication error or issue. And then I said, well, look, I hit all these things, but then I went and measured in my Gerber viewer, right? And I went and measured, and like it wasn't what they were saying. They were saying there was like 0.07 instead of the 0.09 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just tearing my hair out. And of course, I'm doing this on a 12-hour cycle, right? It's like I send it in at night, and I've been going to bed earlier too. And so like I only get one revision, right? I send it in, they come in the morning, they check it, they tell me it's wrong. I wake up to this. I don't have time to even go fix it because it's just like how the time zones go and how long everyone's working. And so it was like, okay, well, now what? And so back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Finally, I talked to this friend, he mentioned Eurocircuits, and they also validated that I had it set at 0.089, right? It's validated. There was one actual error from like a zone fill that was like 0.07, but they didn't point that out. Like basically there's only so many things they'll point out in the checks coming back from JLC. And so, okay, I finally found it. But even that, like they were saying that like, oh, it's not 0.09, you're not going to get it. So so then I was looking at Gerber. I was like thinking like maybe it's the aperture of the Gerber files, right? Because there's actually like
old school apertures when they did actually use wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't know, this is how they used to expose them. They used to have these aperture wheels. They were wheels, physical wheels with different size aperture holes in them. And you would choose, if you wanted your trace to be 10 mil or 10 thou wide, they would have a 10 thou wide aperture, and then they'd shine the light through there and it'd go over and actually draw in the trace as an XY plotting thing. So they would actually plot
Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah. So they would actually plot, and then they'd have to change wheels. So if you wanted to change trace widths, they had to change the aperture wheel. And like that was like how they exposed the artwork, the positive or negative artwork for the PCB. But geez, that was long time ago.
Yeah.
Galaxy far, far away. Anyway, your problem, of course, is that you asked me if you had done what you'd done wrong, and yep, it's the classic resolution problem. Well, it's the problem is twofold. One is the Gerber resolution that you output, and the second
Although I did
is
output it at 4.6 or 4 Mantissa. I don't remember the thing. Like, what's the one before that?
Well, the second one, the for :5, it's usually like 2:5 or something like that. Well, it depends on your program, but the second digit, that 5, that 3, 4, or 5 or whatever, or 6 in your case, is the resolution of mils. So a 2:5 resolution, when you output your Gerbers, like in Altium, for example, it'll have this option 2:5, and that means has a resolution of 0.01 mils. 2:4 is 0.1 and 2.3 is 1 mil. So,
because it's in inches, you're saying, instead of in mils?
It's in inches. Yes, it's in inches. Yep.
Yeah, so I had it in 6 though. So it was first
so
off,
you were in millimeter. So you were in millimeter resolution.
Yeah, so it should be even better though, right? I mean, like,
well, it should be, but you've got to look at it, right?
Yeah.
So yes.
Anyway, so basically, I was just thrashing. I mean, like, and like you get to this point where like I was just like freaking out. Like I made all these changes. I feel like I was taking crazy pills because I was looking at it and I'm measuring it, right? But I'm obviously using KiCad tools that are like built on the same thing, and it generates Gerbers, and all of my design rule checks are passing, of course. And so I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And so I don't know. I just kind of kept tweaking things, and eventually I think I changed I moved up the clearance on the planes. That was one thing, and I turned off the X2. Yeah. That's the other thing too, is like I changed, when I say thrashing, usually what I mean is I'm changing so many things that I'm not sure what ended up
Oh, which one
isolating
did it? Right, yeah.
Yeah. So I also turned
Right.
off like the X2. So there's like a version 2 Gerbers, X2 Gerbers, and I turned that off because one board that I had sent in previously had worked with very similar kind of tolerances, and the other one didn't. And I don't know. So yeah, so it's cargo cult,
Yep.
Gerbers, you know.
So the second problem is that not only the resolution,
Yeah.
the minimum resolution that you had, so you got a rounding error there. Then the fact that the manufacturer, they were obviously, because they were talking to you in millimeters, that
Yeah.
was what they were. That was what all their manufacturing team are using, millimeters. But
Right.
you designed your board in mils because that's
right.
also what they had on their site. So they had a rounding error on their site. What was it? 0.09
So
millimeters?
0.09 millimeters is 3.54 thou.
3.54, but they rounded it to
Yeah.
3.5.
Exactly.
So you use that 3.5, you took that as gospel, and
Yep.
and you laid out your entire board. But then when you can output it when you output the Gerber in metric, it's going to be under that point.
Yeah.
That 0.9. That 0.9 millimeters. So yeah.
So like, and don't get me wrong, like the JLC folks were very nice and very like understanding with my thrashing and questions and everything else. And another thing they said is that they usually like to take up they usually like to actually, when they're doing cam, they'll widen the trace for you. And so, and that's
I hate that though.
and that's for exposure, right?
Yep.
They basically want to expose a wider trace so that if it doesn't over etch, then it's fine, right? It's not a big deal. But I was at the
Don't
edge.
touch
like,
my Gerbers. Don't touch
yeah,
my
right.
Gerbers.
I mean, like that's what it comes down to. And like, so basically at that point, I was like, well, I guess I got to go to a different board house that can do 3 mil, and
Yep.
so just all the usual silliness. And really, at the end of the day, I probably was on the edge. I should have just added another layer, or gone to blind buried.
The problem is that
Yeah.
you're expecting to get all this professional attention and professional detail on like a $5 shared
Well, these are
panel
not
board.
$5, but yeah, right. Shared panel, I think, is fair. Yeah, and like and so
it's just yeah. No, when you're paying for your own panel, like your full panel,
mhm.
they will like bend over backwards and do it properly, and they can take more care on that panel and stuff like that. But when they're mixing and matching, they don't want to dick around with your dick around in. So they that didn't work. But they don't want to waste time with dicking around with just your design when they've got 100 other designs on that same panel. Like they just don't want to do it. So
yeah. I mean, and that's really where that kind of so in this case, right, they have people in the loop, right? I think they'd be better served, honestly, moving towards like a Euro circuits type thing. I think, I'm sure they're working on tooling like this, but like that kind of thing, like if I can get that feedback, I'll just go fix it myself. I want to fix it myself. I don't want to wait 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyways, I'm going to try Euro circuits just for like that tool was a brain saver, really. But that was a stressful bit of time there. Yeah.
Yep. But everyone's going to encounter that. It's very common once you try and push it. It's like, seriously, don't push it. If your house,
that's another
your
thing,
design house says it's 5.5, well, don't use 5.5 unless you absolutely have to.
Right. I think that's really something that, I was doing this stuff for Contextual Electronics too. And I did a little post-mortem and I said, like, look, I should have set this at 3.75 mil instead of 3.5. Right. And then you said, squeeze it down when you need to, because the other thing is when I went to go and like start changing it now, right. So you go do a replace based on, the
existing size.
Yeah. The type of net it is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had 850, DRC errors. And like it's so locked up, you try and do a push and shove, and it's so over constrained now. It's literally unusable. I would have had to go and reroute the entire board, and so or go to 6 layers or this or that. There's And so at that point, I'm just going to go. I had done all this stuff to stay on the the low cost side, so that people following along could also get a board kind of cheap, right? And if I was going to do it for anyone else, I would have just been like, okay, well, I'm going to go get blind and buried vias, and that's what the recommended layout is. That's what we talked about last time you and I chatted.
Right.
So I guess damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? So
well, no, you're not going to be damned if you're just if you're aware of this stuff.
Well, I just mean like,
and you don't push
I would have literally run out of room though. Like that's very telling now that I would have. You think? Okay. All right.
Good PCB designer can make room.
Oh, a good PCB designer can make room. So Dave is implicitly saying that Chris is not a good PCB designer.
You're not in the right mindset.
All right,
Oh boy.
all right.
Yep.
So,
Anyway.
anyways, yeah, that was a bit of stress throughout the week, but got through it, and yeah, boards out
Excellent.
at Fab, so that's good to know. And now I'm in the world of RTOSes and firmware and lots of other stuff. So yeah,
We'll leave that to another podcast.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. Well, speaking of engineering mindsets, yeah, I just released a video looking at how two engineers can produce, I'm not going to say exactly the same, but pretty close to the same design and get it published.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered that?
I actually have, when you've mentioned that on the show before.
Did I?
So you've mentioned that here, but you haven't made a video about it yet.
Oh,
and
no,
so
yeah, I've mentioned
I
it
don't
before.
remember
Yeah, I've been
which
meaning to do
episode
the
it
video
was,
for
but
ages.
yeah.
Right.
I know, I guess there's always that, like, that timing kind of thing of like, oh, I was thinking about doing something like that. You think that in the back of your mind, but no, I've not actually had it published at the same time.
Right.
Kind of thing, so.
Or you're on the dunny or whatever and you think, you come up with this great idea and you go, oh, this is fantastic. And you search Google and, oh, it's already been done.
I think it's even better when there's like a Kickstarter that was started 3 weeks ago or something like that, where it's like literally it's so close in that it's like, oh wow, it was kind of in the air, that kind of idea.
Yep.
So was it something about I remember you'd mentioned, like I said, you mentioned it in here before, but was it something about the chipset that drove it? Because it was a logic analyzer design, right?
It was a logic analyzer design where we're going way back to 1996, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back when FPGAs were like getting into FPGAs or programmable logic was thousands of dollars minimum, right?
Yeah.
It was like, it was not, you don't take it for granted. Just the software alone was
not
thousands of dollars.
$50 dev board, huh?
No, it's not.
Open source tool chain.
Yep. And then in 95, Lattice Semiconductor came out with this ISP starter kit, in-circuit system programmable. So they were reprogrammable. That was novel, right? A reprogrammable programmable logic device chip that didn't need like an external E squared prom or anything, right? It was E squared prom built in. And you could just program it. And for $99, Yankee bucks, $150 here in Australia, you could buy this development kit that allowed you to develop for these programmable logic devices. And that was just mind-blowing. So it wasn't compatible with their main tools because they didn't want to step on their pro tools, which cost thousands of dollars minimum. Right. Yep. So it was, so I've done a video on
our business, Dave. We can't do that. The sales team will not allow it.
I've actually done a video trying to extract the original files I did like in 1995 and import them into the modern tools, and I discovered that no, it wasn't compatible. They stripped down their software and deliberately made it not compatible with their main tools so that it didn't, so that you bought your $150 and you could have a play around and you could program these chips, but you couldn't then step up to the bigger tools and port your designs over. They couldn't even import the design, It was entirely separate tools. That was annoying. But anyway, so this enabled, relatively cheap in-system programmable logic devices, not FPGAs. Programmable logic devices have essentially a fundamentally different fabric to FPGAs.
Is it like do they program at boot time too? Is that like how they have to get programmed every time?
No. It's inherent. It boots up instantly because the E squared prom cells are part of the E squared prom fuses actually join the logic together. So it's not like a separate E squared prom that has to be loaded in.
Yeah, it's no like bitstream type of stuff.
Yeah, no, there's none of this bitstream rubbish. It's instant on, which is great.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, so this enabled. So I guess around the same time in 1995, both myself and another guy, Laurent Lemesche, we went, wow, what's a hard project to do that we can use this cool new low-cost PLD for? A logic analyzer. And then and then you go down the rabbit hole analyzing the two designs, and you can see that we almost did it identically the way we implemented everything.
Was there like a reference design you were starting from too? Or
No.
or
This
oh,
was
that's
completely
interesting.
from scratch. No.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
that we happened to choose the same chip, and then of course, the chips only had a certain number of pins, so that
yeah,
dictated how
yeah,
many channels you could have per chip. And then then it's fairly obvious that you want to then delineate your design into having a control chip, and then you have a separate trigger chip, and then there's only certain there's different ways you can implement trigger, but we decided to do it identical ways internally.
mm,
Essentially, we
yeah. That's
like,
crazy.
if you look at the two trigger chips, they're essentially identical designs, but it was driven by all these logical decisions that once you had decided you're going to make a logic analyzer from that chip, these, it sort of goes down a funnel, and there's only sort of, it constrains your choices of how you do things. And we both
Yeah,
ended up with near similar designs.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, it is interesting that like when you have like a system design that there, you know, there's only so many parts out there that'll fit the bill, and it's like you could go, I guess the choice is like you could use an integrated chip that's, that other people might be using, or you could do it all custom. But why would you do it custom, right? I mean,
you're
like,
right, right. Yeah.
like there are infinite ways to do it, of course, but some of the ways just make a lot more sense, and so that, yeah, I think that leads towards a common output.
Yes, it does, and it's just remarkable. Well, it's not, it's just interesting to see how those, there's so many sort of logical ways you can end up doing a certain thing, and
Yeah,
it's probably unsurprising that two engineers at, different. Back then there was no internet, so we couldn't, there was no sharing ideas and things like that. You
right.
look
You're
at
not
other
starting from the
people's
same forum
designs.
post.
No, exactly. It's
Yeah,
totally different world. And
yeah,
yeah, we just ended up with essentially the same design. So, and we both published it in the same year,
that's crazy. Yeah.
months apart. So
Have you ever corresponded with the person?
no, I don't know
See,
him.
now that's what you got to
I
do.
don't
You
know
got to
what he's
call that
doing.
guy up and like,
Right.
no, seriously, like get the backstory. That would be interesting. I think there's a podcast, Dave.
You think
Go
so?
on,
All
go
right.
do it.
All
Yep,
right.
yep. You're
All
gonna
right.
meet this guy. It's gonna be a meet cute.
Well, I did meet. There was another guy who also got a logic analyzer design published years later in Electronics Australia magazine, and he used an Altera. It wasn't an FPGA; it was a programmable logic device as well. I did meet him though
Oh,
years
cool.
ago.
Like randomly, or like one of you called the other up.
Randomly, yes. I think we ran into each other somewhere. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's great.
Yep. And then I ended up going to his place for the day, and we, talking about old designs and,
That's cool,
the
man.
industry and stuff. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yep. Me being social.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I know. Novel. Yeah.
Have a bad experience and never again. Is that what you
No,
said? You said never
that's
again.
good.
I'll never meet him. Oh man.
Anyway, yeah, it's fascinating. So please leave it in the comments if you know of,
Yeah.
if you've had like a similar design, like somebody, like just independently, the two of you have come up with, multiple people have come up with nearly the same design, and
Yeah.
why. So
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I've seen like architectures inside of like test equipment that look similar, but like that's also because people go between companies and they open up old
right, yeah,
gear
exactly.
and like
There's
the architecture kind of converges
technology
just 'cause.
transfer. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Technology. A nice way to say.
that is the technical term, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Technology
Okay.
transfer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, unintentional on the company's part, but yeah, it does
Right.
propagate, I suppose.
Yep. So, which happens a lot, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
the head, oscilloscope designer from Tektronix will leave and go to, HP or.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Why not?
Yep.
Well,
So,
speaking of people leaving, there was a thing about there's been some Intel stuff lately. It doesn't really impact us that much, right? Because it's leading edge and whatever. I think it's interesting just because it is. Well, I guess because also we've talked about it here. But someone got canned. The chief engineer got canned because
from Intel.
yeah, because of like they basically are falling behind. There's a couple articles I've been seeing about this. Basically, that they're so Intel is on the process side too is starting to falter. They're not sending out everything, but they are sending some stuff to TSMC, which just feels weird. It feels like these two giants, and like one's like, well, nah, you get this. You know, you take it. It's
I
fine.
know that's not the old Intel, right? The old
Yeah,
Intel led the
exactly.
industry. Like you went to Intel. It's flipped.
Right.
It's like if you wanted some, leading edge fab, you went to Intel.
Right. But
And
and
now
like
it's like, no, Intel are going to someone else.
I'm
It's
sure there are things that are so far outside my pay grade that I have,
for
we'll,
sure.
we'll never know. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, it just, I don't know. This always bugs me when I see the stuff like this too. Like, so like Analog Devices stopped doing fab stuff. We talked about on the show back when it happened. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more. And like, when you give up process technology, it's like moving away from manufacturing too. Like manufacturing sucks. We all know it sucks. It's a terrible, terrible thing. However, like you have and I think the real problem is that it really sucks on the financial side, right? I mean, like it's low margin, it's high people count, and everything about it's just a
A
mess.
cutthroat business.
Exactly. And yet, you when you give it up, you give up a ton of like tribal knowledge, you give up a bunch of innovations that come from just being on the shop floor and seeing things and like I don't know. I think I have a very particular visceral reaction to this because I was there when Keith Lee did that and I was very frustrated by that, and I've seen other companies do it, and it's like I don't know. There is some magic that is given up. Maybe it's overblown in my head and by people that are around there that are maybe losing their jobs and they speak against it as well. But like I don't know. I feel like that's a losing move over the long term.
Right.
And yeah.
I possibly know why this has happened.
Oh, okay.
It's in his name. It's in the chief engineering officer's name, Murphy. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it properly, but that's his name, Murphy Renduchintala.
I think it's by Murty. Maybe Murty.
But no,
Murthy?
that's
Yeah.
I know that's not how you
Close enough to
traditionally
Murphy.
spell Murphy.
Yeah.
Like it's TH instead of PH. But
Yeah.
like it just that's too close. That's too close for comfort. Like
Got it.
I would be getting the heebie-jeebies if my chief engineering officer was called Murphy.
I mean, I just can't imagine being in charge of something that big too. Like, so they're talking about like, someone else coming in and Ann Kelleher is doing the development of the 5 and 7 nanometer. Like,
Yeah.
like you're in charge of getting down to 5 nanometers. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. I'll just have it done by the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, so just half the transistor width, 18 months I've got. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Gordon. Thanks for that wonderful log, Gordon, founder of our company.
Maybe we can get Murphy on the show. That might be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure that they are moving on to some other very important place as well. So.
Oh yeah, but they might be twiddling their thumbs at the moment.
Yeah,
they got the boot from Intel. Maybe that'd be fascinating.
Yeah,
maybe we can reach out.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him.
Excellent. Well, yeah, Intel. Oops. Yeah. What else we got?
Oh yeah, so the reason about that is I had always I guess I was a little disappointed in my prediction. I always thought they were going to like split out the fab. That's what I've always said on the show here is that I always figured they would split out the process side. But as I posted it on Twitter too, someone said like, well, you would never be able to support just the high capital costs of a fab without all the the smooshy IP side of things, because that's
Right.
where the money is, right? And like having like brand dominance and IP that nobody else has. And speaking of IP, NVIDIA reportedly in advanced talks to acquire ARM.
Well, everyone's taken a look at them. Everyone's like inspecting their books and going, "Oh, will we buy them or not?" Even Apple had a go apparently.
Yeah,
and Apple just went, "Nah, it's a bit on the nose. We won't touch it."
Yeah, right. We can. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's interesting from seeing seeing who's actually interested. Like, I wouldn't think that they would stop selling. Like, I don't think that Samsung's going to come in and buy ARM and be like, "See you later, Apple." But
no, it's
that would be. I could imagine this would get a lot of hackles up though. And so there's another article about like I think who was it? TSMC's looking at it, Foxconn, basically people that have like a vested interest in ARM going well. The thing that I look at this and think is like, okay, ARM's for sale. People are playing hot potato with it, whatever. who turns around and says, "Oh, RISC-V, okay," like
Right.
maybe that'll, if there's enough churn, some of them might just turn around and be like, "Well, I guess we'll just do it ourselves. Whatever,
Right.
open source, cool."
Ah.
Time will tell.
Yep. It's interesting because just the other month we were talking about, ARM was like, Apple's, going over to ARM and everything else. And it's like, and now it's like, well, ARM's for sale and Apple turned it down. And like, I don't know, a couple of other companies have turned it down. And like, what the hell is that? Is there something wrong with ARM? Like,
I don't, maybe,
like actually
maybe there is
on the books kind of, side of things.
Yeah.
Who knows? So anyway, apparently a lot of companies are looking, having a sniff around.
Yeah. It's not like 38 billion is a small amount, so
no,
gotta have some chips.
Is that what they know? That's what they bought it for. That's what SoftBank bought it for. That's not what it.
32.
That's 32.
Nvidia's looking at buying it for 38. I think.
Oh, are they? Okay, right.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's got to go up. It's got to go up.
No, that's not much of a margin on you.
Yeah, right. Don't worry, SoftBank is used to losing lots and lots of money.
Yes.
WeWork.
How many billions did they pour into WeWork?
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, guys.
Yeah.
I did notice, so I was on, so I've been using Seger Embedded Studio, which is like a IDE that Nordic uses.
Yeah.
And I was interested to see that they have a version of it. There's a whole different version. There's an ARM version and there's a RISC-V version. And it's like, I know that there's like tooling out there for RISC-V and like GCC for RISC-V and all this other stuff, but like, I'm still surprised to see it, I guess. Like my brain is so like locked into ARM being like the default these days.
Yeah.
That like, when I see other stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, there's other things
other
out there.
things exist. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. There's a compiler that's different. Like I used a 8051 compiler a while back too. I was like, oh yeah, it's not ARM. So
right.
Or like a TI part. I was using MSP 430 part. It's like, oh yeah, not ARM. These are different things. Yeah. Okay. So just gotta keep remembering that. Firmware.
Speaking of can we go back to the previous one? Speaking of dodgy, sales that have fallen through. Arrow almost. Oh, geez, we're going to do a lot of news this week. Arrow walked away from only 40 million. That just shows you how pittance this sort of industry is.
Yeah.
A $40 million deal to buy IEEE's Global Spec, and Global Spec own the EE Times, brand, and do they still make a physical magazine or is it just a website?
No. So Arrow owns EE Times.
Oh, sorry. Arrow owns EE Times.
So Arrow owns a bunch of media properties that are
right,
all but defunct. I mean, they're out there, fine, whatever. But like, it's a mess. And when's the last time we read EE Times, right?
Oh, that's right. Arrow bought EE Times in 2016. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So Global Spec's like it's like in the component business a little bit. I had a little bit of exposure to it.
It's component sourcing. It's like it's that's what they do, right? It's like a fine chips kind of, an Octopart kind of thing, isn't it?
I guess I don't know.
Kind of something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked at it for donkeys.
But you're right. Like compared to like the billions we were just talking about, 40 million's not much. So.
Lousy, and they passed. So they passed on an Arrow. And no thanks. Yeah. So you can be left with like dead brands like this. Like they just die off. Like who reads EE Times? Like does anyone? Hands up in the comments. Does anyone read EE Times? I mean, like.
I mean, we have lamented it here because we used to love it, right? I mean, like EDN, EE Times. What was that?
Yeah, it used to be one of the go-to, things that you'd check out.
I used to love getting the actual magazines and stuff too, like paper. Yep. Remember paper, Dave?
Yep.
Remember like paper, like sitting in an office with other people reading paper
and reading the Bob Pete. What's all this stuff anyhow?
Back of the episode, back of the.
Electronic Design Magazine. Who owned Electronic Design Magazine?
So that was that was a different. Yeah, they all merged together, so it doesn't matter now.
Right.
They're all dead.
Okay.
They're all dead.
Yeah, they're all dead. Yeah, you can't. I used to get. It was free. You would get even in Australia here. They would send you your copy of Electronics Design Magazine. For free. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember that. That was like 20 years ago. Like that was like, geez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same time as the the sales. It was basically when print media had enough money to actually have salespeople too.
Yeah, right. And then it died out. It's kind of sad. Like magazines like Silicon Chip and Diode here in Australia are still going, of course, but like
Yeah, those are hobby magazines, really.
Yeah, hobby magazines. But when you look at the numbers, it's like, well, if you overlay the growth charts of both of them, my one, like theirs is plummeting and mine sort of overtook. I can remember the point when I was talking with the editor of Silicon Chip, Leo Simpson. I was, we're at a trade show and having a chat, and we're comparing numbers. And that's the point I realized, I have a bigger audience than Silicon Chip magazine.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like their numbers were falling, mine were growing.
You,
and it's like,
you
holy
ship bits
shit.
and they ship atoms, man. I mean, like
And I almost went into that business because before the blog and before the podcast, my first idea was the podcast, the Amp Hour podcast, and then I went, I'll go to
called
video.
the Amp Hour then, but
yes, it wasn't called the Amp Hour. It was just like, I'll do a podcast, but anyway. Right. So I put that, and so I ended up canning that because who wants to just listen to just me on my own? So I thought, video is better for that. So I started the EV blog, but before that, I really considered doing a startup electronics magazine. And
so much
editing. Yep. And it was, I dodged a bullet there. Yep. Well, not dodged a bullet.
Maybe it would have been bought at some point, Yeah.
Or maybe bought. No. Oh, yeah, but it would have been bought for a pittance. You could put years worth in work into that, and you're not going to sell it for millions of dollars. Right.
Yeah, right. It's not the hottest startup, huh?
No, it's like $100,000 will buy your rights. It's like
right.
Yeah. So but I really seriously investigated the possibility, even sort of started a few things, and doing my own electronics magazine, and because back then, like the electronics magazines here in Australia, they were going down the toilet. It was the end of the Electronics Australia era. They were going reviewing all the consumer gadgets and everything else.
I want a piece of that. You're like, I gotta get on that before it's too late.
Yeah. And again, leave it in the comments if you dodged a bullet when you thought you'd get into an industry that died like a year later or a couple of years later, that just like petered out or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, glad I didn't do that. Oh boy. Imagine if you started a TikTok channel, for example. I can make a full-time living on TikTok.
Yeah, that would have been poorly timed. You would have been in job retraining real fast.
Well, it's only been like huge for like a year or something. So it's like it hasn't been like huge for like 10 years. It's only been huge in the last year. So it's like literally everyone who jumped on the TikTok bandwagon is now, because it's going to be banned everywhere.
I don't think you and I have any risk of being trendy, Dave. So I wouldn't worry about that.
No, I don't think we're going to be doing 30-second engineering videos of
Yeah, that's right.
Dancing with a multimeter or something.
Okay.
Oh God.
You should post one of those. In the realm of job retraining, that was my attempt at a segue.
Okay. Yes.
This is interesting that so Google and also Verizon, I think someone posted on Twitter as well, but Google is offering their own 6 months for $300. They will train you to be a Google engineer.
6 months for $300. It's an online course, obviously.
It's an online course, yep. And basically, they're using it as like a seed program. It's called Grow.Google, and there's like a bunch of. Right now, there's like an IT support certificate, but basically there's going to be career certificates for project manager, UX designer, and data analyst. And basically, they're going to try and juice their job market prospects by training them themselves. And so basically, 6 months and like a bunch of Coursera courses, and like that is very interesting. I mean,
it's very interesting, but why? I thought they had people falling over themselves to work for Google, or is that so last decade?
I think it's because they're not going to pay as much.
Right. They want to pay like internee wages and
Well, not intern wages, but they actually have the numbers on here. They say so like 66,000 is the median annual wage for data analysts, and 93K for project managers, and 75
93K for project manager at Google. I don't believe that.
That's the median annual wage, right? So that's just the median.
In median industry wage, right?
That's right. And so But the thing is, I think what they're trying to do is they're not going to hire people necessarily. They're going to cherry pick the top, right?
Oh,
So
of
you go and
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you start
You
now
do it.
with
Yeah.
100,000 people that are like $300 from Google. Okay, sure, why not? 6 months, you get 4% of that, right?
Yep.
That's now 4,000 people, and that's still pretty great, right? They want to hire 100 people out of there. You can get the creme de la creme out of that, and and it costs them nothing. Like literally,
Yeah,
they make the
yeah.
course once and it's done. Like so, so obviously I have some interest in this from my own educational aspirations and stuff like that.
Right.
But like that's pretty crazy. And I'm guessing they're also like probably hoping that people have other education of some type, some kind of like bona fides and work experience, whatever. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? I don't think there's any guarantee that you get hired, and it's brilliant. It's basically the zero marginal cost of online education, and then basically having a big enough name that they're like, all right, well, you want in $300, and basically the $300 is probably like just covering costs and getting skin in the game.
There's a reason it's $300 is because they've done studies, not Google, but the studies have been done that's the impulse purchase threshold for most people. For most,
right? But why wouldn't you put it 0? That's what I'm saying. It's like skin in the game. You want to have some skin in the game.
Oh no, you got to have. Otherwise, everyone would be doing. No, you want the only the serious ones.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So you can't make it $20, right? $30.
You could. I mean, you could. And when they say that they have,
you're going to get more tire kickers than not. You know,
yes,
whereas 300, you got to be semi-serious, I guess, to
right.
pony up $300. But it's not 3,000, right? 3,000 go. Oh, And there's a lot of people out there who won't even have $3,000.
Right. Well, and so they're doing scholarships and grants, and like that's great. Probably make it more diverse. Like get people like pulling up the ladder, and like that's awesome, right? But yeah, I think the key thing is that it's not the difference here is that it's from my perspective, because I keep an eye on this kind of industry a little bit too, is that there's nothing on the back end, right? There's no like, well, you have to get a job at the back end, and by the way, that's how we make our money. So like if you look at like Lambda School is one that I actually went through their whole process just to see what it's like, and they make you do quizzes and all this other stuff, and basically they guarantee, quote unquote, guarantee a job, but then they get I think like 10 or 20% of your salary for the first year, and
they're a consulting company. Yeah, then that's what recruitment / consulting companies do. They take a percentage, 10, 20% of your first year's salary. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't come out of your pocket, by the way. The company has to pay that.
That's right. Yeah. So, because it's hard, and that's the end of the day. It's hard to hire people. I think even you said like Google is not short on hiring people, but I think if you reduce that friction point, the same thing happens too, right? So like you've been part of hiring, I'm sure, with companies and stuff like that. It's like the hardest part is getting the people in the door at the beginning and filtering them down. Right, so like filtering for the
you get hundreds of resumes.
Exactly, and then you get to that point, you start to filter, and then like so, and if it takes long enough, and there's a lot of man hours to do that kind of thing, and then at the end you're down to like 5 candidates, and you interview all 5, and 4 of them are good, 1 drops out because they got another job because it took so long, and it's just like, and then all this thing, and then at the end you give an offer, and they don't want it. It's like, oh my God, we have to start over. And
exactly.
And so there are so many things here. So if you make that top of the funnel much, much bigger, which I think they are, then it's great. I mean, like, and so I will call back to, I've been listening to this podcast. I really like it. Prof G show. I really, really like it. So I do recommend that. I'll put that in the notes again. He talks all about this stuff. It's Scott Galloway. And he's like been talking about how he thinks that a tech giant was going to pair up with an educational thing. So he had said like, like a Harvard will pair up with a Google or an Apple or something like that. And they'll offer something like this. It's interesting that Google's actually pairing up with Coursera because they're like, Google's like, we don't want to do this business. But I think there's, Scott talks about like, there's going to be more of this, but at the brand level of like a MIT or a Google or whatever. And, MIT has MITx and edX and all this other stuff, but to actually get hired people, that's where it gets interesting, I think. So
I'd be interested to know whose idea it was. Was it Google's idea and they approached Coursera, or did Coursera go, just some smart cookie at Coursera go, oh, we've got this idea, and if they approach Google?
I mean, we are in the middle of some weird times, man. And like, especially like, like I said, go listen to the Prof G podcast. He talks all about it, but like, like people are going back to school already, and like, Yeah, like the numbers were just mind boggling too. He said like one of the schools, it was like, the tuition's like 50 grand and they have, some of them have like 20,000 students.
Yeah.
And so like, that's like $500 million. Was that $500 million? No, that's whatever the math is. Like it was a significant amount of money, and like, no, it was a 10,000 times $50,000, whatever. But it's just like the cash flows at universities is so crazy high. And yet that is like the thing that all of these, at the end of the day, it's all to get hired. I didn't go to school because I wanted to like just learn and find myself. I wanted to get a job, and like,
right.
if people can shortcut that, like that's something big, so I think that especially with like big companies like Google, I think it'll be more interesting when it starts to filter down to smaller companies when they say, oh, well, if you have the Google certificate, then you're fine. Or if you have a contextual electronics certificate, then you're fine, but I don't, we'll see how it goes in the future.
You're playing with the big boys, Chris.
Oh yeah, Dave, I'm really on top of things. Yeah. I did have an idea about it at one point where I was going to like, one thought I had was like, I have a lot of consulting work right now and like basically hiring students from contextual electronics.
Right. Gotcha.
And like, if I'm training them, then like basically I'm training them to be me at some point.
Yeah.
And there's
right.
like value in that. And then the idea was like filtering from just like people just normally taking the course. And then the ones that want to go on, they would eventually become consultants. And like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. So,
well, it seems obvious, really. If you're in that business, if you personally need actual consulting design engineers and you happen to have a course training them, it's well, hello, McFly.
Well, it's just a lot of overhead to do that, though. Like that's the hard part,
right? Of course,
And then I think the thing that's really stopped me about it is that like to keep that engine running over time is that then someone has to go and actually like find enough work for all those people that you're bringing up through the ranks.
That's the problem. It's like, like you can't give everyone a shot. Like, it's once you find someone who's good, you want to, you
maximize their value, right?
Your vested interest is to stick with them, right? Mm-hmm. Not, go out and try somebody new just because you want to give them a go.
So you're saying I should make it more like Survivor instead of there can only be one.
You're voted out of the course.
Yeah, right. You receive a rose made out of solder.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So honestly, I've thought about that too. Like, I've hired contractors before and like, farmed work out to them. And I think there's like this delicate balance too. I'm sure you've dealt with this too. Of like, at a certain point, you got to like, if you want to keep doing design, you have to keep yourself smaller, I think, because as soon as you get bigger, you either have to, or you have to go hire a business manager basically, right. Because otherwise I'd have to go out and like source all this work and then I never get to work on it. Like the interesting
of course.
problems that I like doing, and that's like kind of the whole reason I'm here in the first place. Like I want to do the technical stuff. So yeah, can't just make a business.
Destined to be small fry.
Well, that's okay. I'm enjoying small fry status.
The curse of every decent engineer is, you're destined
not going to make it big.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the best you can do is like have a, get your design jollies and, hopefully have a little financial security and.
Geez, we're so non-entrepreneurial.
I know.
Depressive, aren't we? It's like, when we just
every time I read about entrepreneurial stuff, that it's like, like the most important skill you have. I was listening to Brad Feld was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and I've listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast once in a while. Usually it's a little over the top for me. Usually a little too much advertising mushroom tea to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to listen to this all the time. And like, but Brad Feld is like a long time. So he does like the, he writes a lot. He's a VC and, he's very well spoken but he's talking about like the most important role of anyone who starts a company is being a storyteller. You just got to be able to tell the same story over and over and over again. I'm like, hell no, thank you. I will go solder something over and over again. I would not like to tell the same story over and over again. As much as you and I have the same conversations, for the past 10 years, like, yeah.
What's funny, Chris, is that, you're really into this sort of, you read or you listen to all these entrepreneurial podcasts and you read all these entrepreneurial books, you're
Yep.
infamous for it almost, and you're
Yeah,
still
man.
not sold. And you're still not sold on the whole
Yeah, it
concept.
sucks, man.
It's
Like, well, and like this other, like I've worked at startups. It's like
it's
it's a
just so
slog.
funny.
It is like,
Yeah.
you like the okay, yeah, you're a CEO, great, you got the title. Like Mark Zuckerberg, I'm CEO, bitch. I've got it on my business card. You know what CEO is not doing? He's not writing any code anymore. He's managing people and like all the gross people stuff that happens. I don't know, like
It's
yeah.
taken him a decade to figure it out, folks.
Well, me?
Yeah.
No, I'd known this. Whatever. Took you a decade.
What? Uh,
Yeah.
how many times have you plugged entrepreneurial books and podcasts on this show?
I still think it's worthwhile to know it. I mean, like that's the thing. I think it's an informed decision. It's not like
Oh,
I
of
was like,
course. No.
not like I looked at it and
Yeah.
was like, no, that's not for me.
Right.
I think it's worth to know. And I think the other thing that's important to know about that stuff is okay. So I don't work at a startup anymore, but I sure as hell work for a lot of startups. Like that is they lean
Right.
on consultants pretty
Yeah, oh,
heavily.
yeah.
And
Of
if you
course.
don't know how a CEO has to go and talk to their board, like, oh
Then,
my
yeah.
God. Yeah, it's
Yep.
tough. I mean, like I feel for him. I really do, but it's and like you need to like hold back some information sometimes, and you have to like give them stuff that like give them a win that they can have in front of the board.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right.
and like the timing really
Yep.
matters. And like
Yep.
there's like just really it's like human nature stuff. I don't know. Like it's just you have to
And they often don't know what they want. So they
Yeah,
have to
right.
they're reliant upon what you give them. And if
Yeah.
you have the knowledge to go, "Oh, look, I think this will look good for your board. Trust me."
Yeah.
And it works, then yeah, you'll be,
Right.
flavor of the month.
Well, and I think that's the other thing too is like understanding like in like startups with like cash flow and like understanding how especially hardware startups, oh my God, like the cash is just so important. And if they're basically presenting to the board and the board says, nope, we don't like that. We're changing how much, you can't go raise another round of funding. You have to go and do this other thing. That will literally blow up an entire business model because
Oh yeah.
they're dependent on funding until you're self-sufficient. And it's like, okay, well, you got to know that stuff. So I don't know, Dave. I think I'm doing fine reading my books. I'm just
Okay.
saying.
No.
Maybe read a book or two,
All right.
What do you read these days?
You'll get no
Anything
argument
good?
from me.
I got some good books if you want to hear about my books.
Tell us about your books.
Let's see. So I am there's a Stevenson. Okay, these are also sci-fi. Come on. I've got one is called Destination Space. No, that one I forgot the title. I read it at night, so I forgot that one. I'm reading the Baroque series by Neil Stevenson right now. That one is fantastic. Actually, you would actually like this one because it's like
Right.
historical fiction and it's all about the time of like
yes.
Newton and Leibniz
Oh
and like
yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah. I would
all
like
these
that. Yep.
characters. Like it's all
Yep.
made up, but
Uh-huh.
it's historically relevant.
Relevant. Yep.
Yeah, and
Right.
but like so like the main character's roommate is like Isaac Newton at like boarding
Right.
school and stuff like that.
Cool.
And like
Sweet.
just hearing about it, yeah, it's actually really good. It's a little slow start, but really good. And it's like a 3-book series. It's called Revelation Space. That's the sci-fi one. And then let's see, any self-helpy books. I gave up on a couple self-help books that I was listening to. Didn't like
Right.
those. And
Yeah, I've like tried some of them, and they're just I've
Some of them are bad,
got
I mean.
the Blink thing. What is it, Blinkist or whatever?
Oh yeah,
which is
Blinkist, yeah,
which
that's
is
an app. Yeah.
some. It's an app which is
Yeah.
summary of they record these audio summaries of books, so you don't have to read the whole
Yeah.
book. So it's like everyone's like 15 minutes, right?
Yep.
So you get a 15-minute summary of what that book's about, and so you can get a good idea from that if you want to go read the whole thing.
Yep.
You can go, oh no, that sounds Jesus, that's bloody obvious. I don't want to read a 400-page book about that one obvious thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good high level overview. So
Any business book can usually be a 2-page blog post. That's what
right. Yes.
that's what they
It
say.
can. Yeah. That's it. That's why. Yeah, I don't find a lot of time for those books because there's just I just don't get the value from them.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's very few that actually do have like I think the measure of a good book like that is actionable like items, right? So things that you could go and like do with it. If it's just like, oh, here's a study, here's another study, and it's like, okay, that's actually one of the books that I don't like. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Range. by David Epstein. I thought it was gonna be this great book, like why generalists triumph in a specialized world. I was like, oh yeah, that's like that totally
No,
hits
yeah,
my
of course.
all.
That's
Yeah, like
totally engineering.
that is,
Yeah.
that is totally like a self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing, right? It's not great. But like
Right.
Ultra Learning by Scott Young. I just finally pulled up my book list. Ultra Learning by Scott Young, awesome book, very actionable. How to go and like improve how fast you learn. I really like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I just bought a new one suggested by Philip from Embedded Artistry, which is Artos something something. I'll probably talk more about that next time, like you said.
Okay.
So yeah. So yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
That's the books of the week.
Books of the month, probably. I don't read that fast.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. What are our time's up? What else we
Yeah.
got? Any last minute things?
Shariar had a great teardown this week in repair. I like that one.
Yes. His teardowns are always great.
Yeah, they're really good. He's
Yep.
yeah. And if you're new to electronics and you want to really watch, like, obviously watch Dave too. Like Dave does good teardowns and all that stuff. But like Shariar does a lot of like RF stuff, so that's like
It's
special.
mostly high end. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him do a really low end one.
Right, and then he always does like the experiments too, and I think that helps to like kind of showcase, like he drives, he kind of dives through, like one of the things that I've been learning as I get into the RF space is like kind of the really block diagrammy way that RF stuff works. It's like, you do this one thing and then it moves to the next section, and because it's got to be also isolated, it's really nicely laid out in that way too. It's like, does this thing, does a gain stage, does a multiply state, does all these things, and then they're all in line. And so like what's great then is when he's troubleshooting it, he's like kind of works backwards, and like he can see like how a signal is supposed to do, and like because it's so, I don't know, I guess that happens in a lot of test equipment in general, but Shariar is awesome. We know that.
I can't possibly hope to get that sort of gear here. The stuff that he repairs, like it's just unobtainium here in Australia.
You mean in Australia? I see.
Yeah. Like you just
I mean,
can't
you
get
have to ship it. You have to ship it overseas.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, you simply can't get it. So I don't know where he gets his stuff from, but Jesus,
Well, he's in the US, so that helps.
Pays a lot of coin for it. I can guarantee you he pays
he does.
a lot of coin for this gear. Like, he'll get a 20 gig Spectrum analyzer and he'll repair it. He didn't get that for $100 on eBay.
No,
right?
Yeah, no.
He paid like thousands for that.
Yeah,
it's
a busted thing for thousands of dollars.
A busted thing for thousands of dollars. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So yes, it is not. It's not cheap to do his hobby, I can assure you.
Yeah, that's right. Or his professional work either, to be honest.
No, all his professional work, yeah.
There's another resource, another book for people that I just found. I forget, I was on a Reddit thread, or I don't know. Oh, no, it was a Hacker News thread. UltimateElectronicsBook.com.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Have you seen? I've never seen it before, but it's basically.
I haven't seen it before. This is the first time I've seen it. It's an online thing. I don't even think you can download it as a PDF. Can you? I think it's just purely.
I don't think so, but it's got simulations in with the actual text, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So I got to dig into this more too. But yeah, that's a cool idea. I mean, like I don't think it's like like Jupyter notebooks. I don't think it's like that, but
I don't know.
Like Jupyter notebooks. Those are like when you have like a document, you could put Python, right, like chunks of Python code right in line using this, and like it actually like it's really cool. And it basically, you could go and like show how a little thing works in Python, and then move to the next section, and then like show like a bigger chunk of the code, and then like it all works right in the browser. So that's really cool.
He opens up Circuit Lab, so he gives hot links to Circuit Lab. It doesn't run in the browser. Well, from
Circuit
what I
Lab
see,
is, but
Circuit Lab is browser based, but it's not on his website. He's already saved these in an online, which is a great concept. Use these online browser things. You can just hyperlink over, and start do it straight away.
I finally found them what you're talking about. Yeah, cool.
That's actually a really nice. So you can hit the simulate button, jumps to Circuit Lab, and it's already loaded up, and you can hit simulate straight away, and then bam. Yeah. And he's put like notes on there. Click to open. Click to whatever. It's fantastic. So
we'll have to talk to this person, Michael F. Robbins. We'll have to ping him at some point. So
I wonder what the motivation is behind that. But because that's a metric crap ton of work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like people ask me why don't I write an electronics textbook?
Oh,
right.
Books.
Okay. Yep. I did actually. There's some really old school ones that I like, and I would love to. You can't buy it anymore, but I'd love to see it republished. But I cannot find the author. I cannot contact the author. I've been trying to stalk the author.
See, you should do this, Dave. This is
see
what you
if he's
should
even
do.
still alive.
Well,
right?
but I mean, you should call the publisher and be like, "Hey, I want to republish this book."
I did, and,
okay.
and they went, "Sorry, we don't know anything," because like this is a textbook from the 80s, right? This is no, they don't have the rights, right? Sorry, you have to contact the author, and we, even if we did have contacted the author, we're not going to give it to you. I don't actually think they have it. I think it's from 30 years ago, but of course the books are still relevant.
Actually, the 80s are 1980 was like 40 years ago.
Damn. Oh well, yeah. It's a long time ago. That's when the book was. That's when the book was written.
What do you like about it? You like
I like it's not bogged down with any heavy maths at all. It's it's quite simple. Introduction to DC and AC circuit.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so it's just like the style of writing and the.
Yeah, it's not a Floyd or a Boylsted or something like that. It's not that comprehensive, but it's just DC. So Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, and basic DC and circuit and DC and AC circuit and analysis and stuff. And I thought, wow, if I could get the rights to republish that, I thought that would be cool. But I cannot find the damn author. So yep. I don't even know if he's still alive. At one point, I thought, I found his daughter. And I can, contact her. And it turns out, no, it wasn't. They just had the same last name, And I couldn't. It's bugging me. Yeah, because I'd love to actually republish.
Gotta go hire a private eye, Dave, and have them hunt him down.
Right, have him, track him down if he's still around. So I assume that. If you die, your family get the rights to the book, or is it
usually? Yeah, it's like usually, and then the copyright's like because of Disney, it's like 90 years or something crazy like that. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and fun. It's like and I'd
Thanks,
happily
Walt.
I would publish it. I would republish. I would literally republish this thing. I would pay to have it republished and give them a commission or whatever. But I just can't find the author. Anyway, yep.
All right. Well.
Go work on it again.
Dave's going to start a magazine and a book publishing company.
Right,
soon, folks, so.
magazine. These cutting edge new industries. Yeah, I'm going to get in.
Paper is the future. Michael Scott approves.
Who's Michael Scott?
Oh God, Jesus.
What?
The Office. You never watch The Office?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Man. Oh, jeez.
No, sorry.
Oh, Dave, you have a mission. You have to go watch all 9 seasons of The Office.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. I do know of it, and I've watched 10, 15 minutes of it here and there, and it's I'd probably like it, but Yep. All right.
Well, folks, excellent. Dave and I aren't friends anymore, so.
Right. I've watched Office Space. I love Office. I've got the stapler. I've right behind me here. I can touch it. I've got the red stapler.
I've seen it on the shelf.
Stapler.
Yeah. I've seen it on the shelf. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So give me a break.
Okay. All right.
I'm with it.
Dave's off to watch The Office, folks.
Catch you next time.